Alan Smithee show for 2012. This is the last year.
The first episode.
The last year of our show for the Mayans.
Yeah, that's right. The Mayans won't be watching after this, and
after the Hobbit, pretty
and that'll
much
be
their
also
world
the
compounds.
last joke about the Mayans and all the end of the world that we'll make for the whole year, because everyone else will be pulling that weight. What are we talking about this day, this fine day, Jared?
The Mayans and the end of the world.
Good. We can make more jokes about them, but also
we thought of them first.
What films?
Yes.
What films are we talking about?
Well, I believe you're talking about the shameful Fassbender.
In Shame.
In Shame.
No less, yes.
No less.
Yep.
Well, no less than what he's wearing. We're also talking about Liam Neeson versus the Wolves.
In The Grey.
He does a Russell Crowe on them, the old 1-2. It's it's a film.
It's a film that has characters in it. What else have you seen?
We're also interviewing a certain person who's gone to see Marcy, May, Marlene, Misty, Michael, Morgo.
Michael Morpurgo, Matthew Modine,
Martha, Marcy, Matthew Modine.
Yes, Andrew, our fine cameraman, will be helping us. Yes, he will.
The cinematography challenge.
He will be.
Simpleton.
Absolutely. Yeah. Today we're in fine East Melbourne, in a park where the cameraman and I we used to come here at children.
Hello, more scum of.
And and things happened, and it was a great place and a great time. But
Mos Eisley has nothing on this area.
We'll also be taking a brief look at the Oscar nominations for this year that have only just come out, and also a look at some films that excite us.
Alan Smithee, entrepreneur, socialite, all-round ladies' man. His films were universally loved. At the height of his power, he was considered to be invincible. He was not. Sadly, Hollywood could take no more, and Alan Smithee was banished to television. However, he swore he would return, and with his vile, subpar taste and opinion, he would get his revenge. This is his revenge.
Yep. Now to talk about Shame, a film in which Michael Fassbender plays Brandon.
Part of the Liberal Party in Melbourne, and no, we're not.
Plays Brandon, and it's directed by Steve McQueen, who a few years ago did Hunger, which was a film about Irish people not eating any food and smearing poo all over the walls of their cells, which also starred Michael Fassbender. This film is about sexual addiction and the shame that is connected to that, and basically it's about Brandon, who is sort of like a yuppie, except he's not, but he lives in New York, and his sister comes to stay, and they're just chillaxing, but basically Michael Fassbender just sleeps with everyone, except his sister. It's okay, you can watch this film, it's okay. But basically the whole film is about this sexual addiction. It's not so much about plot elements and plot mechanics, so it's a bit of an arty film, so I have to warn you of that. So basically that's it, that's the synopsis for the film, that Michael Fassbender sleeps with people. No, but so what I'd like to talk about is the aesthetic of the film, which is quite a dark aesthetic. Most of it's set at night. It's basically, a lot of it is Brandon stalking the streets of New York, looking to score, basically. Put that in the most simple terms possible. He's looking to sleep with people. He's looking to get his rock off, basically.
Yep. Okay.
And this is what the entire film is about. But he hates it. He actually doesn't like it. He agonizes over this fact that he is obsessed with it, that he has this dirty stuff on his computer that James Badge Dale finds out about, God forbid, his boss. And, he even tries to strike up real relationships with women, but it is always just pulled back to the sex. And that is what it is. It's just sex. It's just wall-to-wall sex. It's sex all over the place. So it's really a fun film for the kiddies and all that. But
James Spader film of the 90s.
No, but I think what McQueen does, he does it with very little dialogue. Him and the co-writer Abby Morgan, who wrote the awful Iron Lady this year.
He loved it.
Very little dialogue. It's all about the visuals. The visuals tell the whole story. The visuals. McQueen's visuals connected with Fassbender's performance, which is absolutely extraordinary and tells you everything that you need to know about the character, what his emotional state is, what his mental state is at any given time. The film progresses in a strong fashion. It escalates as it goes through.
So we're talking stakes now, Timothy.
Well, it's not so much a film about stakes, Jared. It's a film more about a character study, and it examines the character and what his outlets are, for want of a better word. sorry.
This is leaving people wanting.
No, but that is what it is. It's about how he has to find his ways to alleviate this addiction, but also the fact that he is trying to stop it. He's trying to stop it against. He's trying to go. Cold turkey tries to do this, that, the other. He tries to throw out all of his possessions at one point. He's trying to break the habit, but he can't. That's basically it. It's very simple terms in terms of what you would call a plot, but the real joy of the film is how it goes through these emotional states and displays them visually, and how Fassbender executes them as an actor and defines his character, this whole sexual addiction, through expressions, through mannerisms, through behaviour, and through his massive penis, basically. But that's what it is. It's very arty.
Tell me, Timothy, what would draw me to see this film? Why?
Well, it's a difficult prospect, but you should go and see it because it's a fine piece of filmmaking in the purest sense, pure visual filmmaking, and because Michael Fassbender's performance is extraordinary. It's harrowing, and it is very emotional and extremely powerful, and that's why you should go and see it. Those are the two elements that would make you go and see it. I don't think it entirely works. I think sometimes there's lulls in it. I think sometimes McQueen gets ahead of himself and gets a bit too wanky, for want of a better term again.
It's probably a very appropriate term for this film.
Appropriate, yeah, but one of a better one still. But you know, it's still very much worth seeing. If you're into this kind of film, then it's very much worth seeing.
So what did you give it?
I gave it 4 Irish schlongs out of 5.
That's a lot of Irish schlongs. Now, there's nothing more appropriate than seeing a film of this content being reviewed by a sweaty man wearing a suit.
That's true.
So we'll go on to our next film.
This is how you do it.
Liam Neeson punching wolves.
Hey, what is that?
Go! Go! And into the tree!
Go, go, go!
Oh, Jesus, they're right on us! Don't look back!
Hey, wait! Don't stop! You see him? You see him?
They're all around us! Need a fire to keep them off us. Hurry!
The Grey.
It's Joe Carnahan's film about wolves and people and how they don't get along. Yeah.
Basically, Liam Neeson is a man who hunts wolves, but he's also torn up.
Now, they're in the Alaskan wilderness.
They're in the
He's
Alaskan
not just a normal guy. He's paid to protect miners up in Alaska who are regularly hunted by wolves, and he shoots them down before they can get to him.
He's tormented by his past, a woman in his past. Is it his wife? Is it his girlfriend? Is it his mother? No, it's not his mother.
Who cares?
It's a woman,
and he's
tormented by it.
You know?
He's tormented by it, and we see him in the early stages of the film trying to commit suicide.
He's not in a good place. He's a loner.
No.
He's a tortured soul, basically.
He's a loner. That is the focus of the film. He's the loner.
Basically.
Then he gets on a plane to go back to Anchorage.
Yes.
But the plane crashes thanks to
electronic
things that happen. And
it's
then
never quite explained, and it's not really relevant.
And Dermot Mulroney and I think James Badgedale,
and Frank Grillo, who you'll know from Warrior,
they crash in the middle of the
Alaskan wilderness. We'll call it the wilderness. It's very high altitude, and there's lots of trees and not much anything else.
And the wolves try to kill them.
Look,
and
basically what happens is
don't mess with the wolves.
There's only 7 of them left after the plane crashes, and they have to find a way to civilization. They don't know where to go, so they just start heading south in the hopes that they'll be found. Now, what happens along the way is they come across the fact that there are wolves in the area, and Liam Neeson, being the resident expert on wolves, belays the important and helpful message that they don't know whether they're in wolf territory or not, but if they are, they haven't got much of a chance.
That's right.
Because they're hunted. And look, I wouldn't say it's a gruesome film. It's a fairly...
It's a realistic film, apparently.
It's intense in that there's always the fear that wolves will come at any moment. There's lots of moments where they come out of nowhere. Lots of the cinematic sort of gimmick where they'll come from where you can't see where the screen is showing. So they'll just be just to the left. And
Carnahan relies on loud noises to shock you at basically every opportunity.
To be honest, in the first half, there's a lot of shocks and a lot of sudden loud noises and jumps and all that sort of stuff. But really, what's the strength of this film is entirely upon Liam Neeson's character. It follows him from his loner status to his having to lead this group and use his survival tactics and basically the idea of a suicidal man trying to survive. It's
Interesting.
What did you think about it?
I don't think that the film is necessarily well executed on every level. I think it's actually too long by half an hour. It's a 2-hour runtime and it's basically 90 minutes worth of content. It's very stop-start, so you have, you know, well, we escape the wolves, and then, oh, there's the lull where we talk about each other, and then we escape the wolves again, and then we'll talk about each other, and you're like, well, this is repetitive. This doesn't actually progress the film, apart from geographically, but, you know, there are enough interesting ideas in there to make it, you might say, a worthwhile film. I think it is on the worthwhile side of the scale. I just don't think that it is entirely satisfying, because I think Carnahan goes out of his way to make what is an adventure film. It's about Liam Neeson with a bunch of people out in the wilderness trying to escape wolves, but he makes it as little fun as is humanly possible, and I think that's a problem if you're going to do heady Liam Neeson adventure film. You know, it's got to be kind of entertaining on some level. I don't think this is all that entertaining. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and look, I think it actually has something to say, which I genuinely applaud with these sort of films, which so often can stray into the territory of just being based on survival and not actually focusing on a message. I found in the first half all of those gimmicks that I said, the jumping and the loud noises, it just got to the point where it was so much that you actually couldn't sit back and revel in the character moments, because you were always preparing for something to jump out at the last moment. I found those scenes, that was part of what took so much of the fun out of the first half.
Yeah.
I just think the moments where they would sit down and you'd get to know the characters were so, you were left wanting so much more, just because you'd never know where a wolf would jump or a camera would move away like that, and it should be coming in and listening to me. Not too close. Now look, to be fair, I think maybe 90, 100 minutes, but I did come out of the film thinking it had earned its place as a film. I thought this is worth recommending to people, saying you'll find something interesting about it. You don't agree?
No, well, I think that it's too. I don't think it's enjoyable enough. Not that it has to be enjoyable in a light kind of way.
I don't think it's in the sort of genre where people go to enjoy it, though.
No.
It's the sort of film where you go along to see the survivor, to see the.
That's true, but if you
want to
be,
it does have a lot of.
If you want a film to be a chore, it's got to have more than what that has. Is what I'm saying.
That's
where I would sit on it.
Okay,
What would you? Well, I give it 3 James Badge Dale things where I didn't realise he was in it out of 5.
Interesting. I'm 3.5 Russell Crowe punches.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, she's just a picture who lives on my wall. Just a picture.
You're my favorite. I won't lose you.
That's all.
So now we're going to have Andrew review Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene for us. Hello, and welcome to something where I'm interviewing Andrew. Now, Andrew, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene is the debut film from Sean Durkin. It stars Elizabeth Olsen and John Hawkes. Did you like this film?
Does. It sure does.
Did you like the film at all?
No, I didn't.
Thanks for that review, Andrew. Back to you in the studio, Jared. Hi, now I'm going to talk about some of my most anticipated films of the year, starring me, myself. Now, the most anticipated film of the year for myself would have to be Gravity, which is directed by Alfonso Cuarón and stars George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. Now, you might ask yourself, Tim, why are you interested in a film starring Sandra Bullock and George Clooney? And I say, because they're both going to be set in space, and it's not going to have any makeup. Also, Alfonso Cuarón is kind of a genius. You may remember him from such films as... What kind of films, Jared?
Children of Men.
Children of Men and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Parachutame.
And Parachutame. He had one of the best things in that. It was the one that was one shot, and it was Nick Nolte doing stuff. It was pretty good. Another film that's pretty interesting is The Dark Knight Rises. It's about Batman. It's about him interacting with a whole bunch of other people, and he has to try and save the city with Gary Oldman.
And George Clooney.
And no, not George Clooney. But what else is there, Jared? What else? What would you say would be interesting? when you
Nicholas
finish
Hoult comes around for an acting coaching session with my wife.
Pretty interesting, but apart from...
Frasier recording passes in a haze.
But yeah, but I mean, apart from when you're not reading the Wawa Diaries, Jared, perhaps you can tell us about something that's interesting.
But Richard E. Grant is great.
Speaking of which, he's not in anything this year, but what else is there that's interesting? Oh yeah, The Master. Paul Thomas Anderson. If you've heard of Paul Thomas Anderson, his last film was There'll Be Blood. It was a pretty interesting film. I think a few people saw it, and it got a couple of awards or something stupid like that. But basically, this one stars Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and who else is there? Andrew? Laura Dern. Laura Dern. She's back. It's basically about, well, if the earlier draft has got anything to do with it, the origins of Scientology. So it should be pretty interesting. Apparently, it's going to be shot in 65mm, which will make it visually resplendent.
Timothy,
visually
I feel you're being neglectful. We've got classics coming out this year.
That's
It's actually quite a big year for blockbusters. We've got films like The Three Stooges, Men in Black 3, American Reunion, Scary Movie 5, Star Wars Episode 9. I can't wait to see what that's like.
Scary Movie 5 hasn't even entered pre-production.
You've got to believe, man. You've got to believe. Titanic. I don't know what that's going to be like.
You missed Step Up Forever.
Step Up Forever?
Step Up Forever.
It's a lot of stepping up.
And Wrath of the Titans.
And there's the highly anticipated film about Abraham Lincoln.
Cool.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, or whatever it is.
Great Gatsby?
Great Gatsby, yeah. And
that's about Lincoln.
That's about Lincoln as well. It's about F. Fitzgerald's interactions with Abraham
An interesting
Lincoln.
one will be Ang Lee's Life of Pi. That comes out at the end of the year. Now, those who know the book will find it very interesting concept, seeing as most of it's set on a boat with one person and an animal.
And a pie.
And a pie. No.
A blueberry pie.
It's mathematical. It's like, it's a sequel to...
It's a pie chart?
Oh, jeez.
Yes, The Life of a Pie. Yeah. And what else is there?
It's a sequel to Aronofsky's film, Pi.
The Coen brothers have a new film called Inside Llewellyn Davis, starring the duo from Drive, Carey Mulligan and Oscar Isaac, and it's about folk music.
Also Moonrise Kingdom, the new film from Wes Anderson.
With Edward Norton and Bruce Willis. If you like Wes Anderson, then we assume that you'll probably like this because his films are all the same.
It's very similar style. Argo, which is Ben Affleck's new film.
Ben Affleck's film, set in the 70s, and Bryan Cranston in it.
That's
and
right.
It's in an embassy and stuff like that. Also Skyfall, the new film from Sam Mendes that also happens to be a James Bond film, just by the way. And what else is there?
Well, there's John Carter.
John Carter of Mars, which is just called John Carter, which is a sci-fi epic from Disney, directed by Andrew Stanton, who did Wall-E.
There's also Prometheus, Ridley Scott's non-prequel to Alien, which is a prequel to Alien. The Hobbit comes out at the end of the year, the first part of that. We've got The Amazing Spider-Man. We've got...
no, it's not you.
The Amazing Spider-Man is The Amazing Spider-Man. That's what it's
called.
True.
That's a good point.
The Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah, by David O. Russell.
David O. Russell. Comedy is one of his strong points, and this is going to be a comedy, so it's very much...
What?
I think comedy is a strong point of David O. Russell. That was one of the highlights of The Fighter. And he's got a very good tone for it. He's done Three Kings, he's done I Heart Huckabees, and now he's on to this one. Tim's redundant opinion aside, should be an interesting year for film.
Yeah, if you liked I Heart Huckabees, it'll be great. You'll be richly rewarded for having liked I Heart Huckabees. But yeah, it's an exciting year for film. There are all sorts of exciting projects, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing many of them. But if you want to find out more about them, I suggest you go to a real outlet for news, or perhaps the internet itself, and you'll probably be able to find out all sorts of things. Meanwhile, we can tell you about Richard E. Grant's experiences on the sets of
I met Claire Marshall, a Liz Taylor lookalike who I had seen in Gypsy 32 years ago and remembered her sassy presence. She's perfect for the cameo role of the box office manager.
That's all we have time for on the Alan Smithee Show this week. We hope that you enjoyed some of the reviews, or at least tried to, and pretended that you enjoyed them.
There's pictures!
We hope to see you at some stage in the future.
Pictures.
Some stage in the future. But for now, we have to say goodbye and thank you very much for your generous time. What do you say, Jared?
Richard E. Grant is great.